Peter Parker was just a kid. 17 years old, glasses, a backpack, a science project. No money, no muscle, no father, no mother. And one night, a single spider bite changed everything. But here's what no one ever talks about. It wasn't the bite that made him Spider-Man. It was the grief. It was the guilt. It was the loneliness of carrying something so heavy that he could never put it down. And if you've ever felt like you were chosen for something painful, something you didn't ask for, if you've ever felt like every time you try to protect the people you love, you somehow lose them anyway, then this message isn't about a superhero. This message is about you. Stay with me, because what Spider-Man went through is not fiction. It is a mirror. And when you see what's really inside that mirror, you will never look at your own pain the same way again. Before the mask, before the webs, before the rooftops and the battles, there was just Peter, an orphan raised by an aging aunt and uncle, bullied at school, invisible in the hallways, the kid nobody looked at twice. Sound familiar? Because that is exactly how so many great stories begin, not with power, but with invisibility. Not with strength, but with struggle. Peter didn't go looking for a calling. The calling found him. In the middle of an ordinary school trip, inside a laboratory, with a single bite from a creature most people would have swatted away. And that is the first spiritual truth hidden inside Spider-Man's story. Your transformation rarely looks like what you expected. It doesn't come wrapped in glory. It doesn't arrive with a crowd cheering your name. It comes quietly. It comes painfully. It comes in a moment so small and so sudden that you almost miss it. Moses didn't find his calling in a palace. He found it at a burning bush alone, in the desert, running from his past. David wasn't discovered on a battlefield. He was found in a field, watching sheep, forgotten by his own family. And Peter Parker? He wasn't chosen in a grand ceremony. He was bitten, unexpectedly, quietly. And then, everything changed. But here is what no one tells you about being chosen. Being chosen doesn't mean being comfortable. It means being called into a level of responsibility that will cost you everything. Peter was about to learn that lesson in the most painful way possible. He had the power. He had the ability. He could have stopped it. But he didn't. A thief ran past him. Peter stepped aside. He had his reasons. He was angry. He felt overlooked. He thought it wasn't his problem. And that thief shot and killed Uncle Ben. The one man who loved him. The one man who said, with great power comes great responsibility. And in that moment, Peter's world didn't just break. It shattered into something that could never be put back together the same way. Grief like that doesn't leave. It moves in. It decorates the walls. It sits at the dinner table. It follows you to sleep. And guilt. Guilt is even heavier than grief. Because grief says, I lost someone. Guilt says, I could have stopped it. Can I ask you something deeply personal right now? Is there something in your life, a moment, a decision, a silence that you have never forgiven yourself for? A relationship you didn't fight for? A word you said? A word you didn't say? A moment when you had the power to act, and you didn't. Peter Parker wore that guilt like a second skin underneath his suit. And here is the spiritual truth that will change how you see this. God does not waste broken things. He does not look at your most shattered moment and walk away. He looks at it, bends down, and says, this is exactly where I will build something eternal. Uncle Ben's death didn't destroy Peter. It defined him. The pain didn't end his purpose. It became his purpose. And the same is true for you. The thing that broke you open, that was not the end of your story. That was the beginning of your calling. Peter put on the mask, and the moment he did, he made a choice that very few people truly understand. He chose to carry two lives, one in the light Peter Parker, the struggling student, the boy who barely made rent, who missed dates, who disappointed people, who always seemed like he was falling apart. And one in the shadows, Spider-Man, the protector, the one who showed up when everyone else ran, the one who never stopped swinging even when his arms were burning. Two identities, one soul, and no one could know the truth. He couldn't tell Aunt May. He couldn't tell MJ. He couldn't tell his best friend. Because the moment people knew who he really was, they became targets. So he protected them the only way he knew how. By keeping the truth from them, by being misunderstood, by letting them think less of him so they could be safe. Now, do you know what that feels like? To be misunderstood? On purpose? To let people believe a version of you that isn't fully true, not because you're hiding in shame, but because the full truth would cost them too much? Peter Parker lived in that tension every single day. And in that tension, I see something profoundly spiritual. Because that is exactly what love does when it is pushed to its limits. Love sometimes protects in silence. Love sometimes absorbs blame so others don't have to carry it. Love sometimes wears a mask, not to deceive, but to shield. Jesus carried a weight no one could fully see. He walked into rooms knowing what was coming. He loved people fully, knowing most would not understand until after it was over. Peter Parker's double life isn't just a comic book plot device. It is a portrait of sacred sacrifice of love that costs more than it shows. One of the most devastating moments in Spider-Man's story is the death of Gwen Stacy. He tried to save her. He reached out. He caught her. And the fall still broke her. He did everything right. He moved faster than any human being could. He gave everything he had. And it still wasn't enough. That is a kind of pain that has no clean answer. And Peter had to live with it. He had to keep putting on the suit. He had to keep swinging through the same city where he failed. He had to keep being Spider-Man, even when Spider-Man felt like a curse. And here is the hardest spiritual truth in this entire message. Sometimes, obedience to your purpose does not protect you from loss. Sometimes, you do everything right. You pray. You sacrifice. You show up. You serve. You give everything you have. And the loss still happens. The relationship still ends. The diagnosis still comes. The door still closes. And in that moment, the question that rises up inside of us is the oldest question human hearts have ever asked. God, why? If I'm doing what I was called to do, why does it still hurt this much? Peter Parker never got a clean answer to that question. Neither did Job. Neither did David. Neither did Paul, writing letters from inside a prison cell. But they all shared one thing. They kept going. Not because the pain stopped, not because the grief disappeared, but because something inside them, something deeper than emotion, refused to let purpose die just because pain was present. That is not weakness pretending to be strength. That is the rarest kind of courage in the universe.